This conference will now be recorded.
Good morning, everyone. So in the last session, we discussed about the single dimension like one dimension example as well as multi-dimension example we discuss here. So today we'll try to understand the three-dimension example how it is going to work. So let's have a simple example. So before going to discuss the 3D dimension example, so anyone having any questions so regarding the 1D and 2D dimensions?
Sir, I have. Can you show please one more time? Yesterday we did the double. How it's increasing?
What is exactly it is increasing?
Like, yeah, when not in the double array, when the double data type array.
So this one only, right?
Ah, not this one, I think. Oh, we are using point 10.2 and double data type, which we are using. Single
Double,
dimensional
okay.
array. Single dimensional array.
Let me see where we created that. Okay, this is okay. Okay, can you show me like what is the error you are getting basically? So this is the 2D
Oh,
we created.
I want to know, like, in double, we took the data type, double array, single dimension array nums. We took in curly braces, we took the value 10.2, 11.3, 12.5, something, and we create the variable double result equals 0.0, and when we used for loop, so how it was increasing? On just I want to know that.
Okay. So let me try with one more example.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so this is we created yesterday and so result we given as a and int of I. So these are all the three variables we declare here. And after this, what we did, we come up with one loop. I is equals to 0. And so what is the size we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, we can give the 5 and I is equals to I plus 1. So after this, so you are talking about this line, result plus num of I we added. And finally, we come up with the sum of this
Yes.
particular result.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, what is your query here?
So how it's working when the loop is going on? How it's working?
Okay, so let's observe carefully here. So we are at line number 8. Now you can see what is the result we are having initially. So 0.0. So we need to focus on the right side variable section. So the value, initial value 0.0, and num, what we are doing right now. So num of I, what is I value? 0. So what exactly it will do? It will move on to this particular num of I. In the 0 index location, what is the value we are having? That is called 10.2. And now we are doing the addition. So 0 plus, like this will look like this. Sorry, 0.0 plus 10.2. And now what is the total value we are going to get here when we are doing the addition? So that will become this. Getting the point? So 10.2. Now what we are doing here, we are trying to store into this particular result here. So if you see, when we are moving into the next, now you can see the result. What is the result we are having? 10.2. And now again I'm coming into the next. So when we are coming to the next line, now observe carefully. What is the I value now? I value 1. So whenever the I value become 1, what we need to understand here, in the first index location, what is the value we are having? That is called 15.2. So now what we are doing here, 15.2 plus, and we are going to add with this particular 10.2, because initially the result we are having 10.2. So now this particular addition will look like this, 10.2 plus 15.2. So we need to do some addition on this. So what is the value we are going to get? The whole value we are trying to store into this particular result. So now observe, the result is going to modify. So right now what is the value? 10.2 we are having. Whenever I'm trying to move the next line, so it is become 25.4. So how it is modified here? Because what we did, this is the addition we did here. So what is the result we are getting here? This is the result, 25.4. Okay, and now, so this is the third iteration. What is the I value? Now it is become 2. So what is the value we are having inside the 2? This is 45.2. So this particular 45.2 is going to do the same addition, and the result we are setting into this particular result variable. Now you can see, so what is the total value we are having right now? 70.6. Getting the point? So this is the fourth iteration. Now what is the value of this particular I? 3. And what is the value we are having? That is called 13.0. This 13.0 plus, and whatever the earlier value we are having, 70.6. So this is the one more iteration, like 70.6 plus 13.0. So whatever the total we are going to get, the total we are trying to store into this particular same result here. So now you can see this is 83. So this is the final iteration. So the final value what we are having, 17. This 70 is again it's going to appended with this particular 83. Okay, so now observe. So this is the final value, like this is we are trying to print as a total. But now what we did on the yesterday example, we come up with the average value. So how we can print the average here? How we can print here? So average result, and we can come up with the length here. Okay, so this is the way we can find out the particular length here. Now we are getting 20.24. So this is the average value of this particular double arrays values. Okay, so any questions?
No, sir. Thank you.
Okay, so now we'll move on to the 3D dimensions here, how it's going to work this particular 3D. We'll try to understand here. So before going to discuss about this particular 3D, now when you are trying to create the particular array objects here, so we can create like this. So for example, int something I'm giving. So this is the one way to create a array. So we can give some size here. I'm giving as a 5. And another one, this is the another way. So basically the array type we can declare it variable level, or we can declare it data type here. So this is also will not give any error here. Now you can see, so these two cases. So first one, what we are doing here, we are defining at variable level the array brackets here, and the second one we are defining it data type level. So either we can define it variable level, or we can come up with this particular data type level. So this is also important here. Okay, so in the two cases it will work, it will not give any compilation error. So this is I want to share the information. And now, so what exactly we can do? The 3D dimensions here. So to find out this particular 3D, so here only I'm going to create, or let me create a one more package. So we'll create all the classes under this package, so that in tomorrow if we have any questions, we can come up with this inside this package. We can open the existing example. And now, so 3D array I'm creating. So I'm moving into the main method. And after this, so what I will do, again, I'm going to use the same int data type. So I'm working on the int data type, try to implement the remaining data types here. So whatever the remaining data types here we are having here, so you need to like practice the example on the with the different data type here. So then we can understand here how this particular arrays are working internally. We'll get to know. Okay. And now what I'm doing it. So this is the reference variable I'm using. But now you can see how many the brackets I'm defining, 3, because we are working on the 3D array. So now you can see. So what is the size we can provide? Because yesterday we already familiar with this particular 2D here. Because the through 2D is giving rows and column. And what about this particular another array here? So if I'm going to provide this size, so observe carefully how it is going to look like here. And this is the simple array I'm creating here. So 3, 4, 5. The size I'm giving as a 3, 4, 5. So now observe how we can come up with this particular. Where is that? One second. So I'm trying to. Where is that? One. Where is that? Where it's moved here. Okay, so I'm trying to define the particular diagram here. So the tool is not showing me where this tool is went. Where it is moved. Oh, okay. Anyway, we'll move on to the paint here. So I don't know. The tool is not showing. Okay, so what I'm trying to define here, if I observe carefully, so this is the 3D array we are going to create here. Now observe carefully, or we can come up. Sorry, this is the one section, and this is the second one, and this is the third one. But if you see, we already familiar here. How many rows we have? So something like 4, and the columns we come up with 5. Getting the pen. Now same way, I'm creating like this. Okay, but only the difference here. So this will give you the additional the 3D array. So earlier we come up with the 2D, so that we already familiar with the rows and column. But I'm trying to come up with the 3D. So this is the diagram here. So whatever the three size have we given here, the three size is going to work look like this. And here we are having rows and same columns here. Getting the point. Now, so how we can come up with insertion and updation here. This is important here. So 2, 3, 4, and 5. These are all the sizes here. But how we are going to insert the data into this particular, so this particular 3D array. Now we need to understand here. So observe carefully how we can initialize. So when we are trying to work with this particular initialization and loading the data, so again, what we can do, so we need to come up with the for loops here. Okay, observe carefully. The same variable I'm declaring here, whatever the variable we are having earlier, I comma j comma k. So we'll try to declare these three and we'll initialize the values later here. Now observe I is equals to 0 and I less than 3 I'm giving. Getting the point? So this is very important. This is the top level loop here. Okay, and what we can do, so we can increase the I plus plus. After this, now what I'm doing here, I'm coming with one more nested loop here. So j is equals to 0 and so j less than 4 and j plus plus. So one more loop I'm trying to define. These are all the nested loop here. Getting the point? These are all the nested loop. This is very important. We need to understand here. So k is equals to 0 and k less than 5 and k plus plus. Getting the point? So now how many nested loops we are defining? So two nested loops we are defining. So once we define this particular two nested loop here, we'll try to insert the data. So and what is the variable we need to use? That is called 3D. So we can provide these are all the indexes here. First one I and the second one j and the third one k. And what is the value we can give? Getting the point? So what is the value we can provide? Now observe carefully what is the value I'm giving. I'm giving this particular ij and k values. Getting the point? So these are all the values I'm giving here. So I multiply, j multiply and k multiply. So whatever the result we are getting, the result I'm going to store into this particular index locations here. So this will give you the insertion of data into the 3D array. And the same way, so what is another one? We need to load the data. So how I am loading it? So observe carefully, same thing. Again, I is equals to 0 and I less than 3, I plus plus. Okay, and one more. So this is for j. J is equals to 0 and here j less than 4 and j plus plus. And so one more we are having something like k is equals to 0 and k less than 5 and k plus plus. So once we define this particular three nested loop here, now what I'm doing here, I'm trying to print this particular value. So what is the value we can provide? So 3D and here we can provide the I comma j comma k. Getting the point? I and j and k. And here, so I want to give space so that each variable we are going to have with the space here. And here for each iteration, I want to print on the same line. Getting the point? For each iteration, I want to print on the same line. So once it is completed, I want to move on to the next line. And now you can see this is giving the empty next line here. Okay. And the same empty next line I'm going to use here as well. Getting the point? So here I'm going to use. What happening? Okay. So now observe if I'm going to run this example, what is the value we are getting? So let's see the result here. So initially all the values were getting 0 and because we are trying to multiply something, whenever we are trying to multiply, so we'll get the zeros here. And now you can see this is the one more information. So instead of multiplying here, now what we can do, either we can come up with some addition values. So that is also will give you the information. But observe how we are printing. So this is the three size 0, 1, 2. Okay, so first array, whatever the first array we defining this particular three. So this one, first this is the 0 index location, and this is the one, and this is the second, right? And now what about this particular 4 and 5? This particular 4 and 5, again it will work look like this. So first row, second row, and third and fourth, and these are all the columns here. Getting the point? And the each this particular dimension, we are having rows and columns. Getting the point? On the each dimension, we are having rows and columns here. Okay, so this is we need to understand this particular 3D dimensions. Any questions here? So please let me know anyone having any questions regarding this 3D dimension.
Why are we multiplying I, J, K in the first set of nested loop?
So that is not a matter. You can insert any value. So for example, if I'm going to come up with the one more variable, something like m, and here, so basically what you can do, m is equals to 0, or you can provide this particular m here, and later, so you can come up with the something like increasing the value. M is equals to m plus 2. So whatever you are interested. So just for understanding, I multiply the values, but now you can see. So what is the result we are going to get? So now if you see the result, we may get something different because we are trying to every iteration we are adding the two values, not the single value. Now you can see, so 0 to 4, 6, 8, and later it's more on to the 10, 12, 14, 16, 18. Getting the point? So this is the way also we can increase the value. So the increment, like over the value inserting, whatever the value we are inserting, that is the different here. But focus here how we are come up with the 3D array and how this particular arrays are creating here. And this printing is also very important here. But how we are printing here? First observe carefully. For each iteration, we are trying to use the print method. Basically, based on this particular conditions fail, up to the how many times this particular loop is repeat, for all the times the values are print on the same line. We are printing on the print statement. So once this particular condition fail, what happens here? It will move on to the next loop. Whenever it is moving on to the next, the nested loop here, what we are doing internally, we are printing this empty println. What exactly it will do? It will print the next line. It will move on to the next line. Now you can see, for example, k value. So it started, sorry, k value started with a 0 and it is ended with the 4 because the fifth one will give you the false condition. So 0 to 4, whatever the 0 to 4 values we are having, all the values print on the same line. The values are print on the same line. How we are getting this particular space between? So this is I given here. So whatever the space I'm giving here, the space will give you the each this particular number here. Okay. After this, now what happens here? We are moving into this particular line. So this line, what is doing here? So it's giving the compiler to print on the next line. Instead of moving onto the same line, it will move on to the next line. Again, once it is moved on to the next line, this particular j condition will satisfy. It will come back to the again k. Once a k value, again it's starting from the 0, it will try to print all the values are on the same line. Again, it will move on to the second line. So once this particular j is satisfied, like the j condition is also failed, what happens internally? We are moving into the next line. So this is I and j, it's failed. So the space, whatever the space we are getting here, this is the space we are printing based on this particular println. Now, if I'm not adding this, so observe carefully. If I'm not adding this outer println, now you can see the result here. So we cannot understand here. So what is a dimension information? So how many dimensions we are having? So we could not identify here. Okay. So now if you see, if I miss this also, if I miss this also, we cannot understand how this particular values are printing. Observe. So now we could not understand how this particular values are printing, because if you see, so these are all the this particular each iteration. So now you can see these two nested loops. Whatever the two nested loops we are having, this particular two nested loops, once it is completed, we are moving into the next line. Why we are moving into the next line? Because of this particular println here. If I'm commenting out this println also, now you can see all the values are print on the same line. All the values are printing on the same line here. Now you can see it's printing 0 to 118. but this is not the expected output. So output printing on the output also, like designing the outputs also very important here. So based on our the dimensions how we created, so the same way we need to print the value so that we'll understand how this particular dimension values are inserted and how we are printing here. Okay, so this is important here. So I'm expecting, I think we don't have any questions. Still,
I
if
understand.
anyone, yeah.
Yeah, I understood the way you explain why we use print and println and how it is used. But can you explain me what are the dimensions here I, J, K are representing? Like I should be row or column or J is column and what is K? I didn't understand what is K here.
So you need to understand this diagram.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, what we did here, where is that? Now you can see this particular tree is pointing here. This. Let me see whether I can come up with, yeah. This one 0 and this one 1 and this is for second. So these three are indicating this. This is the size. Whatever this particular three size we given. So this is indicating this. And the 4 here. Again, this particular 4 here we can start here. This is the 0 and this is the 1, second and third. Getting the point. So this is the 4, 0, 1, 2, 3. And same way you can add here 0, sorry. So this is the columns information. This is the row information we discussed in the yesterday. But only the additional we are adding. These are all the three matrix here. So this is the first one and the second one and the third one. This is going to create it based on this particular size here.
So here 4 is the like rows and 5 is the columns and 3 is 3 sets.
Yes.
Okay, got it.
Okay. So any other questions? Okay. So we'll move on to the operator example here. So these are all the different dimensions example we identified here. And now, so try to practice with a different example here so that we'll get to know how exactly this particular array concepts are working internally. And now, so this is the time to we need to move the operators. So what are all the different operators we are having inside this particular Java language and how we can come up with the all the operators here. So basically we have arithmetic operators and relational and logical operators we are having inside our Java language here. Now, so what we can do, we need to understand the how this particular each and every operators are working internally. Getting the point? Each and every operators are working internally. We need to understand here. So let's have the basic example on this particular arithmetic operators. We'll try to identify first. Later we'll move on to the relation and logical operators. So observe carefully. So to work on this particular arithmetic operators here, what we need, we this particular arithmetic operators are going to work on the numbers data type. So other than this particular number data type, so we cannot come up with the arithmetic logics here. So for example, we cannot use the arithmetic operators on the Boolean data types here. Getting the point. So whatever the number data type we are going to use, so for the number data type, we can come up with these particular operators. Inside this, what are all the different operators we are having? So as I explained here, something like addition, subtraction, and something like multiplication and division. So we are having something like module operator. Getting the point. So module operators, we'll try to come up with the increment operator, and the same way we'll use the decrement operators here. And here, so we are going to add as a addition. So addition assignment operators we are going to call. So basically this addition assignment operator like look like this. So this is the plus symbol, and after plus I'm using the equal operator. Same way we are going to use the subtraction assignment operator, and this is the multiplication assignment operator, and finally we are going to call division assignment operators here. Okay, so these are all the different operators we are having inside our Java language. So I'm expecting I don't want to discuss this four. So addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division, because we are already familiar with this example. So we need to move on to this particular module and increment with the decrement operator. So whatever this particular the assignment operators we are having, so we need to focus more onto this particular assignment operators here. So this will give you the some advantages here. Basically this is the additional, like it is the advantage information we are having whenever we are trying to use this particular operators here. Okay, so now observe, let's have a simple example. Let me clear this and we'll go to the one more class. And here, so basic math I'm trying to execute here. And this is the basic math example I'm trying to create. Int a is equals to, now what I'm doing here, so 1 plus 1. And here, int b is equals to, here I'm trying to come up with a multiply 3. And int c is equals to something like b divided by 4. And int d is equals to c minus a. Okay, and into, so these are all the basic mathematics we are using here. So this out I'm using. So here I can come up with a value, and same way b, c, and d. So these are all the c and d. Okay, now observe. First we'll understand the basic example. We don't want to discuss much here because so we are adding this 1 plus 1 and we are doing some multiplication on the a multiply with 3. So whatever the result we are getting, we are trying to store into this particular b, and we are using the division operation, and finally we are come up with some subtraction. So these are all the values we are getting here. And now, so what we can do after this particular basic arithmetic operation is completed, so same way, instead of using this particular int data type, so same way we can come up with a double or float, we can come up with a byte, short, int, and long here, or we can come up with a char also. Getting the point? So basically char is one of the subset of this particular int data type here. We can use the, so these are all the example with the char. Now you can see, so I want to use, now why we are getting this particular errors here, why we are getting this particular errors. Now observe carefully, even I'm trying to run this example, so observe carefully, so cannot convert from into to carrier. Getting the point? So which one we are getting? So as I explained earlier, the result we are going to get as a integer, and this particular int, now again what we are doing here, we are trying to converting into this particular char. So what we can do, so add this particular cast to this particular char. So this we already discussed in the last session here. Okay, so this is the way we can run this particular example. Now you can see all the values, these are all the hash key values we are getting here, because which data type we are using, that is called char data type here. So this is the one of the important example. And now if you're not interested to this use the char, you can come up with the int data type here. Okay, so only the other data type we cannot use, that is called boolean. Now we'll move on to the module operators. So how this particular module operator is going to work. So observe the one more example here. So here only I will try to add this particular module related example. To understand this particular module example, now what I'm doing it, so I'm trying to use the 78. Okay, X value I'm trying to use 78. Now I'm trying to come up with a double Y. So this particular double data type Y value, what is the Y value I'm trying to use? 42.25. Okay, so this is the double value. And now here I'm going to use the module operator. So how I'm using this particular module operator? X mod of this particular 10. Okay, now if you see, so here I'm using the equal operator and X mod of 10. So module operator, basically whatever the reminder we are having inside this particular division operator, it will return the value. So for example here, what we can understand here, so this particular 10 is trying to come up with a 78. Okay, and here what is the reminder we are going to get? So this particular reminder value is going to return by this particular module operator here. This is very important here. Getting the point? This is very important. We need to understand the module operators. Wherever basically the module operators most of the time we'll use in the some logical programs here. And here to find out the remainder of this particular value, we are going to use this particular module. And this is the whatever the result we are providing here. So this will return by the remainder of this particular division operator here. Okay, so this we need to understand here. And the same way, here I'm going to use this particular y here. And let me modify this. Now you can see if I'm going to run here, I'm getting 8 and y module I'm getting 2.25. Getting the point? So basically, whatever the value we are providing here, so based on this particular value, it will try to divide, and whatever the remainder we are going to get, the remainder value is going to return here. Getting the point? So the remainder we are getting as a 8, and inside this particular y case, we are getting as a 2.25, because this is the so dot 25 is capping as it is, and basically the 2 is a remainder here, because we are trying to work on the double data type, so it will hold this particular fraction values here. Okay, so any questions on this particular module operator?
Hey, why isn't y modulo 10 int? And
Sorry, I did not understand.
so when you do y modulo 10,
Okay,
the value, though it's double, it has to be, the result has to be int, right? So
hint only, right? So this value we are going to get as a int only. So we are
even
using
for
the
y?
no, why it is a double only. So you can see 2.25. It is
Mm-hmm,
not an, if it is an int, this value will not get.
mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, so for when you do modulo, double is returning as double and not int, right?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So now we'll move on to whatever the component assignment operator I explained here. So we'll check with the component assignment operator how it is will look. So basically, so whenever we are trying to increase the value, so how we are going to increase the value? For example, so a is equals to a plus 1. Now what I'm doing here, I'm trying to increasing the value here. Whatever the value we are increasing, again the value we are trying to store into the same variable called a. Right. Instead of adding this, so instead of come up with this particular expression, now what is the assignment comparate operator? What it will do? Now you can see, so a plus is equals to 1. Observe carefully how we are trying to come up with this particular plus sign to equal operator. Basically, this will call it as a component operators here. And now observe here what exactly it will do internally. Whenever we are trying to use a plus equals operator, it will try to convert the same way what we are using right now. Getting the pen. So a is equals to a plus 1 and a plus is equals to 1. This is also same. But here only the difference is instead of doing this explicit way, so simply we can define here plus and equal operator. In the earlier example, so what we did, so double array, where we define the something double related example. So here we are having, and now what exactly we can do here? So this is we can do instead of adding this particular result in the pen. So we can come up with a plus and equal operator, and whatever the value we are appending, we can add here. So this is also will give you the same result here. This also will give you the same result. Getting the point. But instead of defining the lengthy lines of codes, because what we need to understand here, the same variable we are trying to defining multiple times here. So instead of defining the multiple times, so simply we can come up with the operator. What is the operator we are doing here? Like either we come up with the addition, subtraction, or multiplication, whatever the operator we are doing here. So we can define and we can use the equal operators. So the equal operator and whatever the value we are trying to add here, whatever the value we are trying to add, so the value we can provide here. So this section will give you the basic assignment operator, like component to assignment operator. Okay, so this is we need to understand about this particular component assignment, and same way we'll try to understand the subtraction and do multiplications as well. So how we can use this particular multiplications as well here? So simple. So you can use the instead of plus, you can come up with a subtraction, or you can use the multiplication here. Okay. So let's have a simple example. Now what I'm doing here, I'm going to comment out this all the sections here, and below only I'm trying to come up with a different values. So now int a is equals to 1 I'm defining, and int b is equals to 2, int c is equals to 3. So these are all the three variables I'm defining. So once I define this particular three variable, now what I'm doing is I'm going to increase and I'm going to come up with the multiplication and the subtraction. Okay, now observe, I want to add some values here. So how we can add? A plus is equals to 5. So whatever the value we are trying to add, that we are going to provide after the equal here. Okay, so this the value will add, and internally how it is going to look like. So this is going to look like here. A is equals to a plus 5. Getting the point. So a is equals to a plus 5, and so another one I'm trying to come up with a b multiply is equals to something like 4, and the c value. So this is important here. Now observe, again I'm trying to add the c value, but if you see what I'm doing here, I'm trying to multiply a and b. So whatever the result we are getting here, the result we are trying to store into this particular c. But here what we need to understand here, basically how it's look like here. Sorry, c is equals to c plus a multiply b, c plus a multiply b, and here, so which one will take the high priority? So basically if you give this, it will take the high priority. But here how it is going to convert here, because internally whenever we are trying to use this particular component operators here, it's going to look like this way. Whenever we are trying to come up with the two expressions here, and the highest expression, whatever the expressions we are providing, the expression will come up with this particular parenthesis here. So inside the parenthesis it will come and it will execute the highest priority. After this it will append the, it will add the value to values into this particular c, and the final result we are adding into the same c variable here. And another one, now what I'm doing here, I come up with a module operator. So this particular module operator I'm using, sorry, so I'm going to use 6 here. So instead of 10, now what I'm doing here, I'm trying to come up with this particular module operator with a value called 6. So now it will try to do the division operation with the 6 value, not the 10 here. Okay, so based on our requirement, we can change the module operator value here. And finally, what we can do, so we'll try to print this particular A and B and C values. These are all the different values we can print here. Now you can see A value we are getting as a 6 and B value we are getting as a 8 and the C value we are getting as a 3. So if we want to understand little bit more, now what we can do, we'll put a breakpoint here. Now we'll run as a debug mode so that we'll get to know how it's going to work. So A value 1, B value 2, C value 3. So how we can check here. Now let me drag this particular variable here. Observe here. So how we are trying to use this particular A. Now A value will become 6. How it is 6 here? Because we need to check this operation. So A plus 5, the value will become 6. What about this particular multiplication operation here? What it will do internally, it's going to look like B is equals to, so B multiply 4 here. Right now we are having 2. The value is going to multiply with 4. So it will become 8. And this particular C, what exactly it is doing internally? So now you can see is doing the multiplication operation. Finally, what is the value we are getting? 51. C value we are getting as a 51. And now based on this particular module operator, we are getting as a 3 here. So why we are getting the 3? The 3 because of this particular reminder here. Whatever the reminder we are having, the reminder is going to return by the module operators. So finally, the reminder is returning as a 3 value. The value 3 is storing into this particular C variable here. So this is the way we can check all the example here. So any questions here? The component assignment operator here. Okay, now we'll move on to the increment and decrement operator. So what exactly the increment operator and decrement operator will do internally? This is important here. So here only I'm trying to implement the increment operators as well. So basically, so to increment this particular operators, so without incrementing, what is the best way to write? So this is the best way to write. X is equals to x plus 1. Now what happens internally? So whatever the x value initially we are having, with help of this particular initial value, it is going to append the value, getting the point. It is going to append the value and the result again we are trying to store into this particular same variable here. Whatever we are doing here, this is also same here, but only the difference here. So the component assignment operator, we can come up with a big number value. So here you can add 5 or 6 or 10, whatever you want to interested you can add. But when we are trying to work with this particular increment and decrement operator, every time it will increment only one value. Every time it will increment only one value. So this is we need to understand here, getting the point. But internally this component and increment operator will do the same operation. And if you see, so a is equals to a plus y and here x is equals to x plus 1, but only the value every time we'll increment one value. And here, so this is the as a user it can update whatever the value you want to increment here. But here we don't have an option, so every time we should come up with only one value. Okay, instead of doing this, so what is the best way to write? That is called x plus plus. Clean the point. X plus plus, this particular x plus operator will do the same thing whatever we did earlier. X is equals to x plus 1, but only the difference here, we are having pre-increment operators and post-increment operators. If you see, x plus plus and plus plus x, getting the pen, x plus plus is different and plus plus x is different, and the same way minus minus x is also different, and x minus minus. So these are all the two sections we'll call it as a decrement operators, and these two sections we'll call it as a increment operators. So inside this particular increment, this will call it as a post increment, and this will call it as a pre increment here. And same way, this is the pre decrement operators, and this is the post decrement operator here. So this is very important, we need to understand. So we'll have a simple example on this post increment and pre increment, and pre decrement and post decrement here. So now if you observe carefully how we can come up with this, and so here only I'm trying to write again int a is equals to 1, and int b is equals to something like 2, and int c is equals to something like 3. So these are all the three variables I'm defining. These are all the three variables I'm defining. But if you observe carefully, now what I'm doing here, some variables I'm going to declare here. I'm not going to initialize the value. So into e. These are all the two variables I'm declaring. So what we need to understand here, so we need to understand here how this d and e values I'm going to provide. If we observe carefully, I'm using this d equals to something like plus plus b. Okay, and here what I'm doing is I'm trying to use a plus plus. So see the values here. So what is the value you're trying to think? So could you please let me know what you are trying to think? So if I'm going to print this, I'm going to print these are all the ABC, and this is the D, and this is for E. Okay, could you please let me know D and E values? So what is the D and E values we are getting here? So what is the value we're trying to think for this particular D and E? Okay, so observe carefully. So whatever you are trying to think, so just see the output here, a value 2. So initially we given as a value 1. How this particular a value become 2? Why the a value become 2? So if the a value 2, we should get the e value also 2. But if you see the e value we are getting as a 1. So see the difference here. The e value we are getting 1 because we are doing the same. Whatever the a value we are having it, we are trying to store into this particular e. But here the e value we are getting as a 1, but finally the a value is updated with the 2. Basically, what we need to understand here, this is the post increment operator. The post increment operator, what it will do, whatever the original value we are having, the original value is initialized with the left side variable. After initializing the variable, it will try to update the value. It will try to update the value. So basically here, whatever the value, what is the original value we are having? The original value 1. The 1 value is going to initialize into this particular e, and later the a value will become 2. Why it is become 2? Because of the post increment operator. The post increment operator, what it will be, original value will store into the variable, later it will update the value. So this is only is happen here. The a value is updated, and here the e value, whatever the earlier value what is we are having a something like 1. The 1 value is initialized with this particular key. But if we observe carefully this section, the line number 35, what we are doing here, d value. So what exactly the d value will contain here? What exactly this particular d value contain? But if you see a value 2, but here if you see b value 3 we are getting, and d value also we are getting 3. So why we are getting in the two cases as a 3? Because this is the pre-increment operator. Pre-increment operator, what it will do? First, it will increment the value. Getting the point? So first, it will increment the value. Initially, we are having 2. It will increment with the 3, and this 3 value is going to update it wherever we are trying to use this particular b variable here. Wherever we are trying to use the particular b variable. So in the d location, the d value will be 3 and b value will be 3 because of this particular pre-increment operator. And because of this particular post-increment operator, whatever the original value we are having this particular a variable, the value is going to store into the wherever we are trying to use this particular wherever we are trying to use this particular a variable, and later it will update the value. But the pre-increment, it first it will update the value, the latest value will store into the variable. Latest value will be stored into the variable. So this is very important here. This is the difference between pre-increment operator as well as post-increment operator. So any questions?
So can you repeat one more time?
Okay, so basically, so what I'm trying to explain here, this is the b value, and this is also I'm giving a value. And now what we can understand here, so I'm using plus plus b for the d location, and so e location I'm using a plus plus. So this section we'll call it as a post increment, and this section we'll call it as a pre increment. Okay, so what we can understand this pre increment and post increment. So pre increment, first it will update the value. So what is the value it's going to update? Whatever the b variable we are having, it will update it with one more value. Like initially it is 2, now it will become 3. Getting the point? So the pre-increment operator, it will update the value, and now what is the original value of this particular b? Now it is become 3. So this 3 value is going to store into this particular d variable. These 3 value is going to store into this particular 3. Getting the point? This is very important. First, it is taking the highest priority to update whatever the variable we are trying to use the pre-increment operator. So this is updating, and later the latest value is initializing into 3. And now here, so come to the post increment. The post increment, what it will do, what is the original value of this particular a? What is the original of this particular a? That is called 2. Whatever the value we are having, the value is going to update it to this particular e variable. So right now the d value we are having 3, and e value we are having 2. Why the e value having 2? Because of this particular post increment operator, whatever the current original value, this is the current original value, the 2 value, the 2 we are trying to store into this particular e variable, and later it is updating the value. Which value is going to update it here? So what is the operator we are using, and this operator on top of which variable we are using, this important. So we are using on top of this a variable, and this a variable will be updated. The a variable will be updated here. But now what we are understanding here, so e value will become 2 and a value will become 3. Getting the point? So this is the only the difference between pre-increment. But in the pre-increment operator, this b and d value will be same value, and in the post-increment operator, a and e value both are having different values here. Getting the point? Both are having different values here. So this is very important, we need to understand here. Okay, so still anyone having any question?
Sir, what's the use of post increment operator if it's storing the same value? I mean,
No,
if
it is not
it's not.
storing. The post increment, it cannot have the same value. See, a value is 3 and e value we are having 2 only.
Okay. E value is a plus plus. Okay. So here in the example that you've shown, e value is 1, right?
Yes, here if you see, a value we are getting as a 2 and e
Mm-hmm.
value we are getting as a 1. Both are not same.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, yeah. Okay. Yeah, I got it. Thank you.
Okay. So now, same way we can come up with decrement operators. So how exactly the decrement operator will work here? So observe carefully. This particular decrement operator here, mm, I want to give something like 10, B value something like I want to give 21. So C, I will use the same. I think C we are not using. Uh, Now what I'm doing here. So if you observe carefully, I'm not using the increment operators. I'm using the decrement operators here. So now think and let me know what is the output here. So here I'm trying to use the decrement operators here. So is nothing but we are trying to decrease the value. The decrement to value, so how it is going to decrease based on the pre-decrement operator as well as post-decrement operators here. So what is the value you're trying to think on the D and E? Because these two only we are using the pre-decrement operator and post-decrement operator. Okay, so let's run the same example. So whatever the value you are thinking here, so just imagine your values are matching or not. Getting the point. So whatever the value you are thinking here, whether the expected values are matching or not, you can think. So observe what I want to provide here. Initially, what is the A value we are having here? So I want to provide A value 10 and whatever B value we are having 21. Now if you see the pre-decrement operator, what exactly it will do, the pre-decrement operator, it will try to decrease the value. Which value is going to decrease here? The whatever the original value we are having, the original value it's decrease here. So now it has become 20. Getting the point? Now it is become 20. The pre-decrement will take the highest priority. First, the original value will modify, and whatever the value is modified here, the value is going to affected into the different location wherever we are trying to use the same variable here. If you see, so here the line number 34, now I'm using pre-decrement operator. So what is the variable name we are using here? B. And this particular B is decremented the value. And now whatever the decremented value we are having, it will store into this particular D. So right now the D value will become 20. Right now the D value will become 20. And what about this particular E? And if you see the line number 35, we come up with a post decrement operator. Post decrement operator. The post decrement operator, what it will do, whatever the original value we are having, the original value will store into the variable wherever we are trying to use. So now if you see, the E value is holding the original value, and once it is holding the original value, it will decrement the value. So now it will become 9 here. Getting the point? Now it is become 9 here. So this is the differences here. If you see, the post operator cannot have the same value wherever we are trying to use, but the pre-incrementer or the pre-decrement operator every time. So it's contain the same value wherever we are trying to use the variable in the different locations here. But if you see, the D value and B value have we are having same, but E value and A value we are not having the same, because of the original value store into the different variable. Later either it will update or it will decrease the value here. Either it is increase or it is decrease the value. So this is the differences between post and pre. We can come up with a post decrement or increment, and same way pre increment or decrement here. So this is we need to understand the increment and decrement operators here. So still anyone having any questions, please let me know. Okay, so now I'm moving into the relational operators. So the relational operators are how it is going to work. So basically, the relational operators we already familiar with some example, that is called double equals operator we already identified, and so this will call it as a not equals here. Getting the point? This is very important. So most of the time we are going to use in the real time application this operator not equals here, and so this we already identified greater than and less than, and something like greater than or equals to, and less than or equals. I'm not going to take much time here because of we already handled this example other than this particular one not equals to here. So we'll see how it is going to work this particular example here. So let's have a simple example, and after this relational, what exactly we can do, we can come up with a boolean logic here. So let me write a simple example. So for example, I'm having here, because we already identified the double equals operators here. In the previous example, we already identified here. So if you see into here we already defined, right? So we can check simply if this particular a equals to 10. This is we already identify how this double equals operator is working. So if it is returns true, we can come up with the below statements. Otherwise, it will try to ignore here. This we already identified the example. Okay, and only the another example we need to use here, not equals to 10. Getting the point? Not equals to 10. This is important here. If this not equals to 10, now what I'm doing here, I'm going to print some value here. Okay, some value only I'm writing it. But now what I will do, how it is going to look like here. So I'm going to write this example in the debug mode, so we may get idea how this value is. What is the right now a value we are having? 10. And now if you see, this expression is going to return true or false. This expression will return true or false. That we need to understand. Now observe carefully. We are getting true. Why we are getting true? So could you please think and let me know why we are getting this expression is returning true? Okay, right now what is the a value we are having? 9 here, not 10. If you see the right side variable section, a value we are having 9. If it is 10, this section will give you the false. This section will give you the false. So basically we are saying that if the a value not equals to this particular 10, other than this particular 10, if a value will contain other value, so this expression will become true. Otherwise, the expression will become false here. So in the current example, a value we are having, the a value we are having, how much here? 9. So if it is 9, it is returning true. For example, if it is 10, what happens internally? It will return false. It will return false. So observe carefully. So one more time, I'm trying to provide the value. So I'm not going to do any other operations here. The increment or decrement operators I'm not using. So one more time, trying to execute the same. So if you see this time, this value will become false. Why it is returning false here? Because right now, what is the a value we are having? So right side variable section, you can see the a value we are having 10 here. If the a value 10, so it will return false. If the a value other than this particular 10, it will return true. So this is only the not equals condition will like providing the information. So if the a value not equals to this particular 10, so you can enter into this particular statement. Getting the point? So this is very important. Sometimes instead of using this particular a value 10, now what we will do? So we may check null conditions. If the a value not equals to null, and not equals to null in that not equals to null means if the a value contains some value, enter into this particular statement. If the a value, if the a value having null value, so don't come into this particular statement. So this particular null section we can discuss in our upcoming classes here, but this is also a different way to check this particular not equals to condition. Most of the time we are going to use this not equals to null, or not equals to some value, or not equals to some one more another data type value. Getting the point? So this is the way we are going to use this particular not equals to null here. Okay, so this we need to understand, and These are all the relational operators, because the remaining we already identified in the previous example. So we don't want to discuss more here. Okay, so let's move on to this particular Boolean operators here. So the Boolean logical operators here. This is very important here. We need to understand here. So now observe. So before going to discuss about the Boolean logical operators here, we need to write the some diagram here. We need to write some diagram here. So here only I am going to write. Okay. So here I'll try to define the diagram here. Maybe this will fine. So this section will indicate this A, B, and C. So first we can come up with a true, and the second we can come up with a false, and oh my god. So third one, I think we need a so one more extra line I'm adding here. Okay, so observe carefully what I'm doing here. This is for A value, and this is for I'm trying to use the B value, and I'm going to use the A or B condition, and here I'm going to use the A and B condition, and here I'm going to use not A condition. Maybe I think we cannot use this. So extra I created, okay, we'll ignore that. But observe carefully here, I'm defining as a A, here I'm defining B, and here I'm defining A or B. Getting the points. This operator will call it as a OR, and this operator will call it as a AND operator, and finally not condition. I think this we can use. Okay, here I will come with the not B. Okay, so observe carefully. If the A value we are giving as a false, getting the point. If this particular A value, if we are giving as a false here, now what happens internally? And B value also I'm giving as a false here. B value also I'm giving as a false. What about this particular A or B? A or B basically either A should match with the true or B match should with the true value. But in our two cases here, both are having false. This particular section will return false. This particular section will return false, and A and B, both the conditions will satisfy true. So for example, how we can write here? So here A value I'm giving as a something like 10 less than 15. Okay, so this you can think as a value, and the B value I'm thinking as a so 20 greater than 10 here. Observe carefully, this is the OR operator. This section will call it as a OR operator. What exactly this OR operator will do? Either this expression should match is nothing but this expression should return true, or this expression should return true. For example, this expression is returning true. For example, this expression is returning true. Now what happens internally? This entire expression will become true. It's not going to check after the OR operator, whatever the expression we are defining. This is very important here. Getting the point. And only it will check first if it is returns true, it will ignore this, and only if this first expression is returning false. If the first expression is returning false, it will try to look up the after the OR statement, whatever the statement we are having. Getting the point. But what we need to understand here, any expression is returning true, the whole expression will become true. Otherwise, if any expressions are like if the both expressions are false here, the entire expression will become false. So this is the indicating the OR condition. Now we need to think about the AND operator. So same thing I'm trying to write. So now observe, here I'm making the AND operator, and so 20 greater than 10. So see the difference here. So see the difference for these two sections. Our condition is expecting only one expression should match. And what about this particular AND? It should match both the expression. Both expression is nothing but, so this expression should match here, and this expression should also match here. And if it is returns true, this should also returns true. If it is returning false, the second expression, the entire expression will become false. Okay, or the first expression returning false and the second expression is returning true, so this is also false, right? So both should match here. Both the condition, if the both the conditions are returning true, the AND operator will return true. Otherwise, the AND operator will return false. Okay, but here, so it's checking only one. Either this should match or this should match. In any of the cases, any expression is matched here, the entire expression will become true. This is very important, the OR operator and operator. Now if you see, the OR operator we are making as a false, because A is returning, A expression returning false, and B expression is also returning false. So think about this, the A expression how it is returning, and come to this particular A and B also will return false, because both should match it. And what about this particular not basically, it will work on the opposite way. If it is false, it will become true. If it is true, it will become false here. So now what about this particular statement? Now it will return true, because the not condition will work on the opposite way here. Okay, so this is we need to understand here. So only we need to focus more on the ARB and A and B, how it is going to work. So one more example I'm trying to write. Second case, I'm trying to use the A value as a true, and the A expression I'm giving as a true, and the B expression I'm making as a false. The B expression I'm making as a false here. What about this particular ARB? The ARB will become true. So why it is become true? Because this expression is satisfying here. Getting the point? This expression is satisfying here. This expression is returning true, and it's not going to check this particular expression because of OR operator. Either any of the condition it needs to satisfy. Okay, and what about this particular A and B condition? Again, still it will return the false. Why it will return the false? Because what we are doing here, because it should match the both the condition. So both the expression should return true. Getting the point? And what about this? So this not condition will return, sorry, your not condition will return false for the A, and for this particular B, so still it will return true. Okay, so two statements we defined here, and this is the third way how we can write here. Now observe carefully. So inside this particular third, the A expression returning false and B expressions so returning true, and in the two cases the A or B, still it will return true. Still it will return true. Right now this expression is fail and this expression is correct. So it's returning true. Getting the point? A expression is false and B expression is returning true. So in the both cases, the R condition will return true. The R condition will return true. And what about this particular AND condition? So still it will fail and still it will return false here. And what about this? And this is true, and B will return false. And this is the final. Oh, we created extra this. Okay. Anyway, now observe carefully. This is the last statement here. And now you can see both are returning true. A returning true and B returning true. So what about this? So this will also, the R condition will return true, and AND condition is also will return true, and these two R operators will come up with a, so this particular not condition will come up with a false here, because it will work on the opposite way. Getting the point? So this diagram will give you the more information here, how the OR operator will work and how the AND operator will work. So now you can see in the three cases, in the first three cases, the AND operators will fail. Only one case it is satisfying here. That is the last case here. But how it is satisfying it? So it is satisfying based on this particular these two conditions. First condition is satisfying A, and along with that B condition is also satisfying. So whenever these two expressions are returning true, the AND operator will return true. Otherwise, in the remaining three cases we identified, it is returning false. Okay. So any questions? Any questions on this particular diagram?
So how we use this not A or not B?
See, basically, not A and not B basically. So just it is going to work on the opposite manner. For example, if you see here, what we are doing here. So A not equals to 10. Just we are checking here if the A value not a 10. So other than this particular 10 cases, so it will returning false. Some cases, what happened here? So most of the Boolean cases here. Most of the Boolean cases here, we are going to check here. What is the best example? What exactly? So basically, the simple example when we are trying to write the expressions. So if it is, if this particular like this, A is a Boolean variable. Now what I'm doing here, I'm checking if this particular A is a false. If it is false, it will become this expression true. If this A value true, this expression will become true. Now simply I'm checking if the A value not condition. Not condition means, so for example, in the A value I'm giving as a false. The A value I'm giving as a false. Now it is become what happens internally? This condition will return true. This condition will return true. Some cases, so once it is returned true, now if I'm going to modify the value as a true, once this condition return true, we are entering into this, and inside this particular conditional block, I'm modifying true. And whenever the next iteration, what happens internally? This will become false here. This will become false. And one more case, so what I will do, this is the 10 value. Now I'm checking with 15, and here I'm making the not condition. Here I'm making the not condition. Even though if this particular expression return for true, but here because of this particular not condition, what happens internally? It will return false. It will return false. Only this particular expression. And if the A value something like 11, if the A value something like 11, what happens internally? The expression will become true. Getting the point? The expression will become true. Or if the A value will become 20, so 20 less than 15, so in that case also the expression will become satisfied. Getting the point? So to understand more, let me clear this. So what we need to understand this particular not condition. So A value we are having 20 and B value we are having 21. So if you see simple example I'm trying to write here, if A less than B, if A less than B, okay, and I'm putting the breakpoint line number 36. I'm going to run this example as a debug. Now if you see what happens here, so I'm checking this particular expression, so it is returning true because A value is a smaller value and B value is a bigger value. Okay, now what I will do here, I'm going to make not condition. Not condition. Okay, now you can see what happened internally. So here they are checking the condition here. So now if you see, again I'm trying to run. Now understand this. What happening internally? It is returning false. So why it is returning false? Because basically here this condition is satisfying here. If you say this, I'm going to see the condition returning true, but explicitly what we are making? We are making one not condition. Not condition, what happens internally? If it is true, it will work on the opposite manner. and it will return false. If it is false, it will return the true statement here. Getting the point? So this is the situations if we want to use. So if the expressions, if it is returning true, and if I want to make something like as a false, so whenever it is false, we need to make as a true. In that case, we can go for the any conditional block. We can use this particular not condition here. So we'll see the 1 2 example on this particular not conditions in our upcoming classes, but observe. So when we are trying to use the not, it will work on the opposite manner. If it is true, it will return the false. If it is false, it will return the true. Okay, so this is all about the this particular not condition here. Okay, any questions? Okay, so we'll continue on Monday. Like we'll try to discuss about the whatever the diagram we discuss here. This particular OR operator and AND operator we'll discuss here. So once we're familiar with this particular two condition expressions here, we'll move on to the one of the important concept called ternary operator. The ternary operators also we are going to use multiple places in the real-time examples here, and we'll see how this particular ternary operators are going to work. And this is the last operator in the operators example, and later we'll move on to the, the same example like switch cases and loop conditions, while loop, do while loop. This we are going to discuss in our Monday session. And once we, I think once we are familiar this, we'll continue on the object related example. Okay, so any questions regarding about today's session? Okay, if not, we'll continue on Monday.
Thank you, sir.